One question here. Anybody else?
On the morning news today, it was announced that the environment is now irreversibly damaged, and we are going to suffer global warming. It's irreversible. So what's going to happen? The weather is going to ramp up the pressure. How are you guys going to combat that? The weather is going to get exponentially worse and worse. We're going to suffer worse of those floods. How are we going to fight that? How are we going to combat that? Over to you.
Can I just ask, who clears the pipe at the quarry at Tarmac as you go down to the Hyde on the corner when it gets full of debris?
You go down to the Hyde, yeah. You go down around the corner, take the pipe to the brook. And when the flood is back, 2020, you trip, you down there, and off that will slow up. So there's a range on not check it regularly until it's not forgotten.
You won't go over the railway,
You know, if you go over the road, and then you go down, and then you go left to go to the Hyde,
yeah.
It's there, it's like it's there in the brook.
Not there, like that. Not there, but like.
The pipe I'm thinking of is actually the track to the railhead. We've got a pipe under there or a bridge which goes across the brook. Yeah, possibly. We'll have a look at that.
One more question, anybody?
I understand that obviously councils have only a certain amount of money. But when you're looking at producing flood defences for properties, and you've taken information on those that are flooded, I take it you're just going to provide money for those that are flooded, because what's going to happen is once that flood defences go in, that water can't go there, so it's going to flood other houses along the street. So is the council going to look at providing flood defences for those houses that may be at risk, not just the ones that have been flooded, or do we have to wait to be flooded before we can look at defences?
Okay, so I guess the detail will come as we, and like I said, we'll share the information and where we've got to in terms of, the assessment of PFR. Yes, we've collected information in terms of those properties that are flooded, but I guess we'll be overlaying that with, what the modelling is telling us as well in terms of, the areas that will be impacted. So, it's a bit chicken and egg, just in so much that, the starting point is looking at the number of properties that are being flooded, but as we do further work and, like I say, overlay the modelling that's been carried out and understand the impacts, it goes a bit wider, should we say? So yeah, you don't necessarily. We wouldn't only be potentially, funding, properties that are flooded, previously. It will all be considered in the round.
Thank you very much. A very, very big thank you to all of you on the panel and to all of you for your questions. I now declare the flooding issue closed for tonight. Hallelujah.
We're nearly there. It's been a very, very busy evening and lots of great questions and lots of good discussion. So thank you to our panel for their responses, but also to all of you for your questions and thoughts. Before I close the meeting for this evening and invite you all to join us for coffee and cake and things, I would just like to remind you of the parish council meetings which take place every month. We don't go into the detail we've done this evening. There's been lots of questions, for example, around planning. I was making notes as we were going. The work that Jenny and her team are doing around flooding and wanting to get the flood group together. These are regularly discussed, and we would encourage you to come along and share your views and your thoughts and get involved. And from a parish council perspective, I mentioned this right at the beginning, your support is invaluable. Whether that's to be included and be involved in one of our community groups, parish council, wherever it may be, or just simply coming along as you've done this evening and supporting the work that we're all doing. It is very much appreciated. So I would encourage you to come along to the monthly meetings, first Thursday of every month, and the dates and agenda and so on are all available on the notice board prior to the meetings. I think that pretty much leaves little else to do other than to thank you all again for coming along. I hope you found this evening informative. I'd like to thank particularly Councillor Kim Park, who's pulled all this together for us. She's worked incredibly hard to get everybody to come along and answer questions. So thank you very much for that. And indeed to Jenny as well and Colin, who have done lots of work. So thank you very much for your attendance. Tea and coffee, I believe, will be available. I'm getting nods and cake as well. So what more could you ask? Thank you very much for your time.